Hey guys, Boogs here. Today I bring you the next episode in our Armour Brief series. Now I'm sticking with the French faction mod theme, and in this video we'll be talking about the AMX-10RC. As usual, I would like to thank you guys for your likes, comments on our last video. It made a splash in the revival of the series. With that over, let's jump in. Designed as a reconnaissance vehicle, the AMX-10RC, which stands for Roost Cannon, translated to Wheeled Gun, has been used by the French Army since 1980. Though no longer in production, over its service life 475 have been built and span three main variants: the AMX-10RC, the AMX-10RC Up Armored, and the AMX-10RCR, which stands for Renovated. More on these variants though later. It has seen service in wars such as the Western Sahara War, the Gulf War, and the war in Afghanistan. The vehicle should not be confused with the AMX-10P, which, while similarly named and share many components, fulfills a completely different battlefield role. Now, a trend we see with many scout or reconnaissance vehicles designed in the 80s is its relatively large firepower. This comes in the form of a GET 105mm main gun, housed in the 3-man TK-106 turret. This vehicle sits on 6 wheels that use skid steering to rotate the hull. This concept is similar to a tank fully stopping one of its tracks to turn. These 6 wheels are powered by a supercharged V8 engine producing 250 horsepower at 3,200 RPM. The last production RC vehicles were instead given a supercharged diesel engine rated at 300 horsepower, but this was governed to 280 at 3,000 RPM. Also, as standard, the vehicle is fitted with 2 water jets on the sides to allow water propulsion, though later versions had these removed and sealed. By 2010, a total of 256 RC versions were upgraded to the RCR variant. This brought about a plethora of new packages including extra armour, active protection systems, an NBC system, suspension improvements, and more. Right, with that out the way, let's take a dive into what we expect to see while playing this vehicle in-game. Now, the AMX is laid out a little like a tanking squad, that is, it only has 3 available seats and no space for infantry. Though, this is a little confusing considering the size of the thing. The first seat we'll talk about is the driver. This seat is typical for squad vehicles, and as mentioned, it is wheeled so can drive even after losing a few tyres. Though, it does have less wheels than the BTR LAV, so it can't afford to lose too many before it becomes almost impossible to move. The driver can take the vehicle up to a maximum speed of 85 km an hour on road or 60 km an hour off the road. They can also make good use of the high 50 km an hour reverse speed if they feel so inclined. The vehicle has a health pool of 2,500 HP, which makes it the same as the CETAS and Bradley. Protection comes in the form of an almost full 50 cal protection, the exception to this being the tyres. Now, one interesting ability the driver of the AMX has is that it is able to change the suspension height in 3 different ways. This has many advantages. The first way you can change this is the pitch, which increases the height of the nose or increases the height of the rear of the vehicle, which is able to, on a slope, increase the depression for the gunner. This ability is activated by holding the spacebar and scrolling with the scroll wheel. Another way the suspension can change is through roll, where, if sat sideways on a hill, the driver can ensure that the vehicle becomes level. This function is automatic, but can be adjusted by scrolling with the mouse wheel when sat on the side of the hill. The final way you can manipulate the suspension is by general elevation of the vehicle. By just using the scroll wheel, without the spacebar while sat on level ground, the driver can raise or lower the vehicle, which allows the profile to be reduced, giving it better concealment and a better hull-down position. Lowering the vehicle while driving also increases the maneuverability of the vehicle. This is because its centre of mass is lower. Next on the list, the gunner. In the AMX-10, the gunner has a wide selection of main gun ammunition to choose from. These are 10 armour-piercing, fin-stabilised discarding sabot, 9 high-explosive anti-tank, 15 fragmentation rounds, and 4 smoke rounds. Each round takes 8 seconds to reload. The gunner also has a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun at its disposal, which has 2,000 total rounds of ammunition made up of 10 200-round belts. And the gunner may also use 2 sets of smoke launchers. Now, Something that is the case with most new French mod vehicles is that the coaxial gun can be fired using the right mouse button, while keeping the selection on the main gun rounds. Now this does make the sound of the main gun round being unloaded, but it is ultimately not, and the main gun can be fired straight after using the coaxial. One thing to note about this main gun though is that it is not stabilized, which makes it quite ineffective when moving at speeds across uneven terrain. The turret also takes a total of 12 seconds to complete a full 360-degree rotation, which is kind of on the slow side. Now, as you can see from the image of the fully zoomed gunner sights, we have the rangefinder at the bottom and the zeroing for each round type on the sides, which is pretty typical compared with other vehicles in the game. With the commander sights, these are very similar to the gunner sights, except they are coloured red. They are also unstabilized, which makes it difficult to spot effectively on the move. And again, without the stabilizer, this means there is no hunter-killer functionality available. With that out of the way, we can now compare these stats and facts with other vehicles in squad to get a gist of how it matches up and what its weaknesses are. So, as mentioned, the vehicle has no stabilizer for its main gun. This has a big weaknesses, as some of us are aware. We also see the same weakness in the FE510 Warrior. Another downside is the slow turret rotation, which when compared to similar vehicles is quite slow. This means that the vehicle should be played with care and kept stationary where possible while engaging. Now, while it has good forward and reverse speeds, ultimately it's not very mobile on small and windy roads. Even though this can be improved by lowering the suspension, it still handles a bit like a tank. Though this vehicle is most definitely not a tank. Even though it has a 105mm cannon, sure, it only has 2000 HP, which means that in a 1v1 against a tank, your matchup is very one-sided and the probability of the other tank winning are much higher. This is also perpetrated by the fact that it has a 105mm cannon as compared to tanks 120mm, and the 105mm deals much less damage than the MBT's main gun. Now this puts the vehicle in quite a weird place where it has the armor and the HP of a tanky IFV, but it lacks the troop capacity and maneuverability of said IFV. It also has the armament of a main battle tank, but lacks the armor to defend itself against this threat. All in all, we have an interesting new addition to the game, which is yet to find itself a good placement in the scheme of things. It is good speed, low maneuverability, a tanky 2000 HP when matched against other IFVs, a large 105mm gun, but one that is not stabilized. Also, let's not forget it costs 15 tickets, which is exactly like an MBT. So for a vehicle with the disadvantages it has, it's a costly loss. This means it will be interesting to find out niche new ways which this type of vehicle can be used, but I suspect for now it will find itself being used to camp in a good position and only move when it is clear that there are no major threats. And that's all I have for you today, folks. Thank you for listening. As always, consider liking the video and leaving a comment with what you thought. Also, if you have any experiences in the AMX that shows ways in which can be used effectively, do let us know. Remember, if you want to be notified of upcoming videos, join the WET team, or find out when we're playing, click the link to our Discord and come say hi. Thanks again, Boogs out.